Yo, what's going on, guys? It's Houston Sports Talk back in another video today, and today I'm going to be doing my 2024 NBA free agency predictions. I think this is going to be a very exciting NBA free agency. It's already so early on to the offseason. Free agency hasn't even started yet, and it's been such an interesting offseason so far. So I can't wait for free agency to get underway. I'm going to go over my predictions. Starting off with the biggest free agent out of them all. Obviously, he's not an official free agent yet because he still has to decide on that player option, but most likely LeBron James is going to decline his player option, and if he does, I still see him re-signing with the Los Angeles Lakers. I think most likely this will be a 3-year deal for LeBron James, and I would think maybe $166 million because it was reported that the Lakers are willing to give him that money. Number two, Tyrese Maxey is on this list just because he is a restricted free agent. Philly's going to sign him to an extension. That's not. I mean, that's not even. It's not even. That's 100% going to happen. Next, you got Paul George. Paul George is going to be very interesting because he just like LeBron James, he has a player option that he has to decide on. So it's going to be interesting to see what Paul George decides to do with that player option. I think he needs to make a decision either tomorrow or Sunday on that on that player option. We'll see what he does. I have a feeling that Paul George is going to opt into his player option and potentially force a trade out of Los Angeles. And if not, might just play next season with the Lakers. With the Clippers. I really don't know what Paul George will do. I really can't make a prediction. If he opts out of that player option, I think he's gonna re-sign with the Clippers. But if he opts into it, I really think he's gonna force a trade to the Golden State Warriors or another team, another big team. So I think if he opts out, I think most likely he's staying in Los Angeles with the Clippers. But if he opts in, I think very well you might see the Golden State Warriors or another team make a big move for him. DeMar DeRozan, another big free agent. I think DeMar DeRozan, where he's going to end up, I think could play a big role in what happens with Paul George. It's been rumored that the Clippers could be interested in DeMar DeRozan if LA moves on from Paul George. So could very well see the Clippers signing DeMar DeRozan if they were to, have Paul George opt in that player option and then trade him. I really don't know where I could see DeMar going outside of the Clippers. I really think it's either the Clippers for DeMar DeRozan or potentially, most likely re-signing with the Bulls. Next, we have, you had Emmanuel Quickley and OG Anunoby who would potentially be free agents, but they have already signed extensions. Next, you have James Harden. I think James Harden, no matter what happens with Paul George, is going to re-sign with the Clippers. Next big free agent we have is Klay Thompson from the Golden State Warriors. And as every day passes on, it seems more and more likely after Klay Thompson averaged 18 points per game this past season that he's going to leave the Golden State Warriors. I believe Klay Thompson will sign with the Orlando Magic. This is a player I think will have an interesting market. Miles Bridges, I'm really interested to see what happens with him this offseason. I don't know where he'll end up. I think Detroit's going to be a team that has a lot of interest in him. I'm really interested to see if they make a play for Miles Bridges. I think the Suns were a team that were a little interested in him at the trade deadline, but I don't think that stands because they don't really have enough money to pay anyone. I'm trying to think of some other teams that were interested in him at the time. I think the Jazz had a little bit of interest. I want to say that he re-signs in Charlotte, and that's going to be my prediction, that he re-signs in Charlotte after averaging 21 points per game last season. D'Angelo Russell was another guy who was going to be a free agent, but he just opted into his player option. We'll see where he ends up via the trade market. Same thing goes for Bruce Brown Jr. And then next we have Tobias Harris. This is someone I think goes back to one of their former teams. I think Tobias Harris returns to the Detroit Pistons after averaging 17 points per game and 7 rebounds per game and moves on from the 76ers. Speaking of the 76ers, Buddy Hield, I think the 76ers decide to re-sign Buddy Hield. I think they're looking to bring back a lot of guys back that are free agents, and I think Buddy Hield is one of them. Next, we have Isaiah Hartenstein. This is going to be one of my favorite free agents to watch out for. Hartenstein averaged 8 points and 8 rebounds per game last season with over one steal per game at 1.2 and 1.1 blocks per game. I think most likely it's looking like Hartenstein will end up re-signing with the New York Knicks. I think that's going to be really interesting. Next, we have Tyus Jones for the Washington Wizards. I don't really see him returning to Washington. And they already have Jordan Poole. They just traded for Malcolm Brogdon. I really don't know where he'll end up. I just had this weird prediction. I'm gonna go with the Milwaukee Bucks. I really don't know where he'll end up, but that's a prediction I want to go with. Next, we have Kentavious Caldwell-Pope for the Denver Nuggets, and I'm going to go with the Denver Nuggets re-signing Kentavious Caldwell-Pope. If Klay Thompson ends up in Dallas, that most likely means Kentavious Caldwell-Pope is not going to Dallas. Then the other teams that are interested in him are Philadelphia and Orlando. So I think it would be either Philadelphia or Orlando, and then he'd also have Denver interested. I think he'd rather just return to Denver, so I'm going to go with him re-signing with Denver. Next, we have Obi Toppin, who's a restricted free agent. I think most likely with him being a restricted free agent, he's going to return to the Indiana Pacers. Next, we got Jonas Valanciunas. I think he's going to leave the New Orleans Pelicans. I'm going to go with the Lakers. I'm going to go with the Lakers signing him and bringing him in. Jonas Valanciunas is a guy who's been linked to the Lakers, and I think this is going to be someone they bring in. Next, we got Patrick Williams. It's been reported the Thunder are interested. Could the Thunder throw him a bunch of money for him to have the Bulls say, okay, we're not going to match that offer? I don't think so. He's a restricted free agent. I think the Bulls are going to match any offer sheet he signs. So I think that means Patrick Williams will be back in Chicago. Gary Trent Jr. I think this is going to be an interesting one. I think Toronto's going to let him go after averaging 14 points per game. He's a great shooter. I'm interested to see where he ends up. I really am, because there are teams that are in need of shooters, and I'm gonna make a bold prediction and say he ends up with the Houston Rockets. They're in need of 3-point shooting right now, and really could use some 3-point shooting help even after drafting Reed Shepherd. Andre Drummond, great backup center after averaging 8.4 points per game with 9 rebounds per game. This is another guy I really don't know where he'll end up either. I think there's definitely a lot of the reason why is because I think there's a lot of teams who are in such need of a backup center. But I'm gonna say he ends up in OKC and signs with the Oklahoma City Thunder. Next, we have Kelly Oubre Jr., another 76er. I think Kelly Oubre Jr. is another player that will re-sign with the Philadelphia 76ers after averaging 15 points per game. Next, we got Jalen Smith of the Indiana Pacers, and I think Jalen Smith re-signs with the Pacers. And then another player I got re-signing with their current team is Malik Beasley. The Bucks are very interested in bringing him back. They're willing to give him money. They know that they have to give it to him after having such a great season. I think they're going to make it happen. Next, we got Saddiq Bey for the Atlanta Hawks. I think it's to be interesting to see where he ends up. I definitely think his days with the Atlanta Hawks are over after averaging 14 and 7. I really don't know where he's going to end up, though. Trying to think of it, where he might end up. I feel like he's a guy that the Lakers might try to make a push for. Most definitely could be the case. But I'm going to say, he played for Detroit already, so they're a team that has a lot of money. You could kind of take them out of the equation. I'm gonna say he ends up in Orlando. That's my prediction. Next, we have Monte Morris from the Minnesota Timberwolves. He didn't play that great last season. Averaged only 5 points per game with 2 assists per game. I really don't know where he's gonna end up either. I think this is another really hard player to predict where they're gonna end up, because there are so many teams who could use a backup point guard as well. I really can't. I'm just gonna say no. I was gonna say the Lakers, but the Lakers have so much guard talent and really don't need a guard. I'm gonna say the Los Angeles Clippers with Russell Westbrook, a free agent, and them ready to move on. I'm gonna say the Clippers is a good spot because they need a backup point guard. Next, we got Simone Fedacheko. I really love for them making that trade with the Jazz at the trade deadline. I think that with all the money the Detroit Pistons have, I think Tobias Harris is going to be a big move for them. But I think re-signing Simone Fedacheko and bringing a guy who's a good scorer, a good rebounder, and a good three-point shooter would be a great re-addition after trading for him. I'm going to say the Phoenix Suns end up re-signing Royce O'Neal as well. They're going to have to give him some money, but I think it's worth it. And next, I think most likely I see the New York Knicks trading Mitch Robinson, and even if you sign re-sign Isaiah Hartenstein. You need a backup center, so I would think if Precious Achiuwa was signed for cheap money with the New York Knicks, that they'd have him back, and I think that might be the way things end up. So I think that's the place I think he's gonna stay with New York, but we'll see. Next we have Mo Wagner, who averaged 11 points per game with the Orlando Magic. This is another guy I really see re-signing as well. Loves it in Orlando. Orlando loves him being there. Obviously, Franz Wagner loves playing with his brother. It's not like Bronny James or Giannis Antetokounmpo where, they're terrible. Mo Wagner is actually a really good basketball player. Great scorer, great rebounder, very solid defensive player as well. So I think the Magic love him coming off the bench, and I think, they're amazing. He's a big part of their amazing bench, and they'd definitely be missing him if he left. So I think he's going to be a part of the big additions that they make during the offseason. Next, another guy I see re-signing is Kyle Lowry this offseason. And he's another guy that the 76ers are really interested in re-signing. Caleb Martin for the Miami Heat is something that's another big free agent. Really excited to see where he'll end up after averaging 10 points per game. I would think he ends up back in Miami, but I don't know. I'm going to say he ends up back in Miami. Next we have Nicholas Batum. Average 5.3 points per game. This is another guy Philly really wants to bring back, and Philly has the money to do all of this. So I'm going to say Philly re-signs Nicholas Batum. Torrey Craig of the Chicago Bulls. I don't know where Torrey Craig ends up, but I don't think it will be with Chicago. I don't really have a prediction for this one. All I do know is I'm pretty sure Torrey Craig will end up leaving the Chicago Bulls. Next, we got Gordon Hayward. I can guarantee all of you that Gordon Hayward is leaving the Oklahoma City Thunder after averaging 10 points per game this past season. I don't know where he'll end up. I think there are a lot of teams that would love to add in a veteran like Gordon Hayward, who's a decent scorer, decent shooter. We'll see where Gordon Hayward ends up. Again, another one I really don't have a prediction for. But let me know your thoughts on my 2024 NBA free agency predictions in the comment section, and peace out.